Hello and welcome to another edition of the Rest is Entertainment Questions Edition.
Questions and Answers Edition. I'm Richard Osman.
And I am Marina Hyde.
I think that might be the best we've done.
Yeah, that's getting it's almost too professional.
Too slick.
Yeah, it'll be used as a training module. Now, have you got a question for me? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Have you got a question for me, Richard?
I do. I shall ask you this question. Well, I don't have a question for you, but I tell you somebody does. John Alexander has a question
hit me
for
with
you.
it, John.
He says, I've just signed up with a background artist agency and was wondering if you have any tips to be a good background artist, what we used to call an extra.
Extra, yes. Sometimes called essays, supporting artists. Now, first, I've spoken to quite a few first ADs about this because I think it is interesting. It's amazing how many of them say, please be on time. So many people aren't on time. And because it's so expensive and everyone has to stand around, the amount of times one of the crews or one of the PAs will have to be pulled on to do it is enormous.
So a first AD is the first assistant director, and they're sort of in charge of everything on set.
They are in charge.
Sure everything runs on time.
It's incredibly stressful. Yeah. It's an incredibly stressful job. They run the set. Someone once said to me that the first ADs, there's a huge, the Directors Guild of America, which they fall under, they have a huge pension pot, but it's very rarely claimed because it's such a stressful job. Yeah, I mean, it's bleak, isn't it? But yeah, it is so, you have to hold all the stress in you and obviously keep everyone from the actors to the director to everyone. So you're managing all of that. Now, don't feel the need to. They also said the couple I spoke to said, don't feel the need to introduce yourself to the cast and crew when you arrive on set, and don't push to the front of the frame because you want to be in the thing. Yeah. It is some of these things are basic, but people do it. Think about what you're going to be doing, because if you're hired to be in an extra in a funeral scene or whatever, they will, or to be in a church or something like that. You will know what you are going to do that day. Have a think about it, because then you will take the direction of the first AD quicker, and you'll just do everything that they say. Don't feel the need to freelance, but you are essential, because without you, scenes would look ridiculous. I mean, try and imagine everyone on a train and then there's no one else on. There's only Tom Cruise sitting in the train. It would look ridiculous. They need you there, and even if you've been told not to make eye contact with a celebrity, all films would look ridiculous without you. Having said that, sometimes you run the risk of making a film look ridiculous. A director told me that there was one scene in their movie, they had 1,500 extras. It was an enormous undertaking. It was a massive tracking shot. And they suddenly noticed when they were doing the edit that one woman had run along and tried to, and is in it 5 times. And you're like, oh my God, painting that out is very, very expensive and very annoying. So please try to just be in it once if you're in a crowd scene, rather than thinking, hang on, if I run really quickly around the back there, I can get in it twice. There are some hilarious ones. There's one that's gone, I think it's gone viral because that's how I must have seen it, because I don't think I noticed it at the time, but once you've noticed it, never unseen. Benedict Cumberbatch in a scene in the second Doctor Strange, The Multiverse of Madness, 2.5 hours I will never get back in my life, but there's a woman behind him who is he's at a wedding, and there's a woman behind him who's just another random wedding guest. She is hamming it up so enormously. She is chewing all the scenery, chewing Cumberbatch effectively. It's brilliant. Go, have a look at that one. That's a good one. But there was a brilliant interview, actually. There's this filmmaker called Anthony Ng, and he found out about this woman who's the world's most prolific background artist. She's had a 60-year career.
Wow. And
anyway, she's called Jill Goldston, and she's been in so many films. And he put together an 18-minute sort of artistic film that I think they showed at the Berlin Film Festival, of all of her little her appearances over the years. And she's done this for so many years, and it's really kind of, I've seen it. It's really mesmerizing and it's really interesting, and so I would recommend that. But it's quite, just do what the first AD says and be on time. Those are the big starting
It's
points.
true. It's one of those. It's one of those gigs. It's interesting because it's you do have to subsume yourself. You have to subsume your ego. But you are part of being part of a film or a big TV show in any way is often fascinating.
Yes.
And you do feel like you're part of a big gang. There's great kind of catering buses, and just being in amongst the buzz of being on a production. You're not going to be treated amazingly well, but most people aren't, because everyone's working their socks off all day and they need you to be in a certain place at a certain time. So no one's going to kind of lead you by the hand. But if it's a job that you enjoy and you're amongst other people as well, it's a really nice gig to do. You get to go fascinating places, do interesting things, meet lots of interesting people. There's huge groups of supporting artists who keep in touch with each other, and it's a job they're very professional at. And also, every single time anyone watches a television program, because of the way we watch things now, people are always looking at the people in the
Oh
background.
my God, people
Always.
freeze framing is everything now.
Yeah.
People are looking at, and if you ever spot someone misbehaving in sort of having it up like this woman in that Doctor Strange clip, you're mesmerized by them. You're
Yeah.
like, where are they now? How bad are they being now? You're like constantly looking.
But please don't do that.
Please don't do that. Jill Goldston actually said, this extra, she said, I realized that it was so much more fun pretending to be a waitress and more lucrative pretending to be a waitress than actually being a waitress. So I didn't mind that I was in the background. And she's really, I really recommend that Guardian interview with her, because I think it's a 60-year career, and that's pretty fascinating.
It's also one of those gigs where if you do cause no trouble and you're just good at your job and you get to know some of the people who cast supporting artists, suddenly you get slightly more stuff to do, and you're put slightly nearer to the actor, or maybe you're given something to hold, or maybe you're given an action to do. Over the year, you sort of gradually, bit more and more, you move forward on the screen.
Yes, absolutely. And you are going to be on screen. As another interesting thing that people don't talk about very often, but the stand-ins. Now, stand-ins, when you rehearse a scene on a film or a TV show, that you'll do it once, and then the cast will be taken off set, and their stand-ins who look a bit like them are put there so that all the crew can light it and do all the things they need to do around them. Those people aren't even on screen, but they are absolutely vital, and they spend a huge amount of time doing the standing around for the actors. So everyone is, when you're on one of these sets, you realize that absolutely everyone there is a craftsperson, is involved in a big thing, and none of it there's none of those things where in some things, and I often actually think in politics, if this person was sacked tomorrow, I'm pretty sure the country would carry on running as exactly as normal. But with this, if anyone is pulled out of this process thing, suddenly the whole machine doesn't work.
Yeah.
So it's really, and you are part of that machine, and it can be great fun.
That's so true. Even on a TV show, if someone is late or if there's traffic or someone's ill, it genuinely, you can't do the show. It's not one of those ones where you go, oh, listen, it's fine. Everybody, you think, oh, of course we can't do the show without that person. I always like it when they have to get a stand-in for me if we're off doing something else and they're doing lights. They have to find someone my height, because lights, you've got a light for someone who's 6'7".
Yeah.
And that's quite hard to do that.
But
so sometimes you see people on cushions.
Well, some actors become very friendly with their stand-ins and try and get them the jobs, to the jobs they move in. And many people have really great relations with their stand-ins. I also, it's kind of an interesting idea for maybe a drama or a comedy or something like that. It's just a sort of interesting relationship. But anyway.
But good luck as well.
Yes, and good luck with that.
And it will be, it's a lot of fun. It's really hard work being on a film set, but it can be a lot of fun as well.
Yes. Definitely one for you here from Alan Briggs, Richard. I've always wondered exactly where the friend is when a contestant decides to phone a friend. Jeremy Clarkson always says, can I just check that there's someone from the programme with you to make sure you're not Googling an answer? So where is that person?
Well, I can tell you, because I was a phone a friend.
Oh my gosh, you would 100% be mine. There's no question.
I've been a phone a friend. When I was on Millionaire, I didn't use my phone a friends. I was knocked out. I was knocked out because I thought, I wanted to go all the way. So I didn't. I had Sean Williamson, Barry from EastEnders, was one of my phone a friends, because he's the only person who's won Pointless 4 times. And a guy called Alan Connor, who was the question editor on Only Connect, and now is the big sort of head honcho on House of Games for questions there. Writes amazing books about crosswords and stuff. So 2 of the smartest people I know. But I was too. I just thought, no, I really want to save them. So I went out on 125,000 because I asked Jeremy rather than asking the 2 cleverest people I know.
Yeah.
Which goes to show how clever I am. So I was the phone a friend for Alexander Armstrong.
Ooh.
When he was on it.
Yeah.
And it's pretty horrible having to be the phone a friend, and you nominate 3 phone a friends.
Right.
So it could well be that you're not going to get chosen. So my phone a friends, I can't remember who my 3rd one was. It would have been someone young, that's for sure. Maybe it was my daughter or something. I can't remember. So you're sitting there, you think, well, I might not be used, but they send someone down from the production, almost like a security guard,
to your house.
Oh God. Yeah, exactly.
So it's quite realistic.
Yeah. Oh, it's for real. And you say, "Oh, look, come and have a cup of tea," and they go, "No, I need to sit, and I'll be out in the car, and I'll, and you go, okay, but you're sitting there, and your phone is tested a couple of times, and then because obviously the show is not on, it's not live, so
No.
you have no idea where it is during the production. So you're just sort of sitting around doing what you're doing anyway, and then suddenly the guy knocks on the door and comes in and says, "Oh, you might get a call in a few minutes." You think, "Oh no!"
Oh my God.
So I got called by Xander. And so he said, "Hi, Richard Xander. I've got this question. I can't get the answer." Well, no, Jeremy says it first. So you're literally on your phone at home.
To Clarkson.
And in Clarkson, which it doesn't always happen. And he's saying, "Hi, Richard, Jeremy here. I've got Alexander Armstrong with you. He's got a question. He's having trouble with it. The next voice you hear will be his. You got 15 seconds or whatever it is." So you're sitting in your living room with a security guard next to you, thinking, "Oh my God, this is awful. Can I read you the question because I got it wrong?"
Yes.
Well, I didn't get it wrong. I just didn't know the answer. So let's see if you would have been a better phone a friend for Xander than I was. Which of these famous fictional spaceships features in a film by Stanley Kubrick?
Okay.
Okay. Is it A, Nostromo, B, Spacecraft Discovery 1, C, Imperial Star Destroyer, or D, the Milano?
Is it Nostromo?
Nostromo, well, I said Nostromo as well. Nostromo was from Alien. Yeah, and it was actually very well done. Anyone at home, from 2001. It was Spacecraft Discovery 1.
I should have just guessed it because I thought that was going to be it. And then I thought, no, hang on, Nostromo. And then, of course, I realised I've got it from the wrong one. So, yes, I would have also
You've
let down
got 15 seconds.
Xander Armstrong.
To be fair, I didn't say. I said, look, I absolutely don't know. It's
No.
not a film. I was not cognizant of 2001, really. I certainly didn't know the name. So I felt terrible. But there it is. And then I think he used up all his other lifelines on that question. He did get through and got on to the next question. That was for 16 grand.
Oh, my God. So how long from when the guy knocks on your front door and says, "I'm going to sit outside, no, I don't want to socialise with you at all," to when that question came?
I mean, 4 hours? It was a long time.
So you're aware of someone outside your house?
Yeah. And you're kind of, and you constantly, "Are you sure? Can I not bring you?" And you go, I'm good. They got, they got their business.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. So it's nice to be asked. You don't know if you're going to answer it, but yeah, someone comes in, is literally sitting with you. So you couldn't have looked at anything.
Yeah.
It's absolutely impossible. So it's absolutely all above board. But yeah, I wish I'd used mine. If I'm ever invited back, I'll have you as a phone a friend.
No, as you've just proved, I'll mess it up for you. So that's such a lot of pressure.
But anyway, that's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. It's for real. Okay, here's one for you from Al Park, or possibly the way it's written, AI Park.
Yes, possibly.
Maybe this might be our first AI.
First
Thank you, AI Park. And it's if I'm going to do this in the voice of Scarlett Johansson, no, I won't. AI Park says, I have always wondered how long-running shows such as Death in Paradise or Midsummer Murders are able to ensure continuity when there are presumably numerous writers over the years. Is there a big book of character information, including a record of all the traits revealed in previous episodes? By the way, exactly the sort of question an AI bot would ask.
Yes.
It's essentially saying, is there any way an enormous book of information about some TV programs that I could have?
And can you feed it to me and then I'll know the answer?
I love information.
Now, that's the one. There is always a sort of inherited show memory, and there are always enough people who've worked on the show for it sort of to be passed down. In my experience, actors will, if it's to do with a personality thing, an actor will say, "I don't think my character would do this," and they know so much about that. We talked about this on the show before, that a lot of directors will say, it's amazing. You think about this project, even writers, for months and months and probably years. And then the actors will come along and read it really quickly and they'll know more about their character than you do already, because there's something just really instinctive about them. And so they'll say, "I don't think my character will do this." In terms of things that have already happened, it's part of the job of something like a script supervisor to work out that sort of thing. But I do remember a friend of mine said he once saw an episode of My Family. In fact, he's seen 2 episodes of My Family where one of the characters was robbed. And then he saw another episode of My Family where the same character was robbed and behaved totally differently in those 2 things. That I think is a much greater sin than thinking, well, hang on, that's happened in Midsummer before, which doesn't. It's when you're doing something to fit the plot, and then so that in a way is a sort of, I think that's where it's gone really wrong. But in general, these things are kind of, you can go through the archive and work out what's supposed to happen, and there's always an inherited memory.
And most shows have a thing called a Bible as well, and the Bible will be everything that's ever happened. It's the same in books, actually. Now I'm on I'm about to start book 5 of Thursday Murder Club. I've got a brilliant copy editor called Donna Poppy, and Donna No, because you write so much and the books are so long. Sometimes you forget that. Oh, of course, actually, that person didn't have a mum because I mentioned that, or
Yeah.
there's a brother has been mentioned somewhere, or oh, don't forget that Joyce says she's been to Spain before
Yeah.
and so it's amazing having somebody with that sort of encyclopedic knowledge who would just occasionally go, oh, that is something we have done, or that's something that we've definitely said we can't do before. And yeah, TV shows have the same thing. These
And
people whose job is to be across the universe.
and actually, yes, and as it's happening, the script supervisor is almost live is covering those sort of things. Because
Yeah.
also, by the way, if you have one of these things and that's what you've shot, then it's too late. You can't really go
Yeah.
back. Yes, so that is the answer to that. There are sort of Bibles, really. Question from Emma Inglis about Murder in Successville. With all 3 seasons of Murder in Successville being added to Netflix recently, I'd love to know any behind-the-scenes info from Richard. How was the experience of filming the show?
So if people don't know Murder and Successful, it's one of those shows I thought I have no idea how they got it made, but it's Tom Davis, the wonderful Tom Davis, who I love, who's the same height as me. It doesn't happen all the time, and it's a sort of improvised murder mystery set in a world where everyone is a celebrity, set in the city of Successville. This sort of gritty noir. They sort of film it through neon lights and rain, and Tom is D.I. Sleet, I think, and he's
Such a mad idea.
yeah, like and
3 seasons, very
and a
good.
celebrity comes into that environment, is taken into various scenes where people are playing celebrities, and at the end they have to solve a murder, right? So I had to solve a murder that involved Hillary Clinton, Arsene Wenger, Zayn Malik from One Direction, all played like Jamie Demetriou playing Zayn Malik, and you know,
How have I not seen your episode of this?
Ellie
Okay,
White
I need to go back for this.
Ellie White as Buick, and it's such a passion project for Tom Davis, Andy Brereton, who was the producer, and James DeFrond, who directed it, who were all brilliant. And they loved it so much. So what you would do, you turn up in a sort of an industrial estate in like Dagenham, I think it was. So you go there, there's this enormous sort of complex of buildings, and you're kind of kept in a dressing room while there's lots of stuff going on elsewhere. It's a bit like Taskmaster in that regard. And then you walk into a room and you're in a scene, and you're in an improvised scene. And, you know, the first scene is Sleet kind of, you know, talking to you, and you're the new rookie cop, and you're dressed in a cop's uniform, which is really cool. You know, then someone comes in as Gordon Ramsay and starts saying this is the case, someone's been murdered in an art gallery, in my case. And so they've sort of got a light script. You are entirely improvised. And they obviously, there's a lot of setups they have to do during the day, but I love Tom. And so I would continue the improvisation like way too long. To that point, I could really see him with his eyes just going, come on, man. We got to get out of this. And I'm going, what does your dad think about you being a cop? How is that? How's that relationship? And he's just going, well, I think probably we need to get it. Well, I don't. Do we need to go now? Sleet, I wonder, you know, it's very important, I think, that relationship. I think if you're a cop, the sort of that kind of, you know, where does it come from, that authority? Well, listen, time for that later. We've got to get down to the warehouse. Anyway, so I would
the unmanageable guest.
Much more. Well, I was really enjoying it, and
Yeah.
I've just been in the dressing room for an hour doing nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah, then you go into a warehouse, and Jamie Demetriou is Zayn Malik, and he's got some clues he's given you. Then we did an art class where, and you know, because I just knew exactly what was going to happen. They go, okay, you're in an art class, and a model is going to come out, and I thought, well, that's going to be Tom Davis naked. Okay, I know it is. I know for a fact that's what's going to happen. There's a screen. I know it's. To be fair, he's wearing a tiny pair of briefs, but other than that, he was completely naked. You know, again, you improv and you draw a picture. And Carrie Ad Lloyd was playing Hillary Clinton, and it's just a joy. It's an absolute joy from start to finish. They take such care over it. I loved going in and mucking about, but I really, really, really wanted to solve the crime as well. Because people rarely do on that show. I think because it's so mental and you're enjoying yourself so much. So if there was ever any break in filming, I'd be like looking through little clues and just looking in Hillary Clinton's bag and stuff like that. And then at the very end in our episode, I shouldn't tell you what happened because people should watch it, but you can watch all of them. But at the end, me and Tom are painted as statues. We're like Roman busts, and you have to decide who the killer was and whether you got it right or you didn't get it right. So it's an absolutely ridiculous show, 1,000,000% the sort of show that wouldn't get commissioned now.
Yeah.
But it'd be wonderful if it does good numbers on Netflix, if someone has another go at it. But Tom Davis, I love so much. He's such a lovely fella. So I love doing it. And there's episodes. Chris Kamara does one. Jamie Lang does one.
Yes, I've seen quite a few.
Lorraine Kelly does one. I
yes,
mean, there's some really, really funny episodes. It sounds nuts, but if you watch one and enjoy it, I suspect you'll enjoy all of them. Here's a question for you, Marina, about Prime Minister's questions. It's from Alfie Bryce Clegg, who may be AI Park and has worked out. Hold on, I shouldn't call myself AI Park. I'll call it. What's a name? Alfie Bryce Clegg.
It's a name that a Restless Entertainment questioner would have.
Yeah.
The sort of name.
That's absolute textbook, Alfie.
Okay.
Alfie says, I've been watching PMQs. Camera operator kept cutting back to Jeremy Hunt dictating answers to Rishi Sunak as Starmer was speaking. And essentially, Alfie is asking, is there a gallery that covers Parliament, and are there shot choices that are being made? Is there any editorialising in the shooting of Prime Minister's questions?
Right, Alfie, this is an absolute can of worms. I want you to understand that in terms of like MPs thinking about how they're covered and filmed, and Parliament thinking about, there are animal Hollywood agents who have thought less about this on behalf of their clients than Parliament ever had. It's unbelievable. Okay, so cameras came in 1989, and there was a lot of suspicion resistance to them anyway. It is actually quite interesting how they alight on it and how they do it. The central principle is that you focus on the person speaking, and you can do cutaways only to other people. This is like all by law. It's absolutely hilarious. Okay. Only to cutaways to other people mentioned in the speech. Head and shoulders only, not close-ups, okay? And wide shots are only allowed during breaks in proceedings. It's so like, I mean, genuinely, like the agents do not even do this. They partly want you to focus on the person who's speaking as it's an archive. They want a proper recording of proceedings.
So it's almost like a visual Hansard.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah. They're not going for the BAFTA for best drama or comedy. But obviously, the broadcasters have to show it. Are constant. They used to have 8. First of all, they used to have 8 cameras, which were fixed position, and they are controlled in a gallery right remotely up in a studio in Millbank, which is like down the road. Mm-hmm. And the director chooses the shots, but that director is not employed by any of the broadcasters. A company employed by Parliament.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
the level of control of this is absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, and they obviously also do the committee rooms in the House of Lords. But these fixed camera positions provided really unflattering angles, and the men were like, all our balls but a show, and the women said, this dress is actually quite decent, but so I've got a cleavage shot. If you're a backbencher, it's almost head on, so they look quite normal, but if you're on the front bench, it's such an angle down to you, and it looks really weird. And the broadcasters were like, look, I'm sorry, this is not engaging at this angle, and it would be good if people wanted to watch this and it didn't look completely mad. So they went to Parliament in 2012, and all the broadcasters made lots of representations, and they had a whole huge committee series of hearings about this.
Wow,
it was absolutely mad. And the broadcasters said, look, can we have reaction shots? And they were like, no, you can't. We don't want to. And then they said, well, we would like to be able to film the public gallery. And the broadcaster said, it's pretty good if people think that this isn't this kind of hermetically sealed, out of touch like literally the Westminster bubble. And then the MPs were like, no, we don't want you to film anyone in the public gallery, because they said, look, it's quite good to show that people come in every day and also to show the intimacy. So they said no. And then the broadcaster said, why can't we see the divisions? Because this is like watching a Shakespeare play where everything's happening off stage. It's like watching Traitors, basically, when you don't have the round table.
So the divisions is when they go out to vote,
when they go out to
vote.
And so they were going to say, they said, please, can we record the divisions? Because otherwise it's like the action is happening. Like, watch Traitors, and then someone say, we're not going to show you the round table, we'll just tell you what happened in it. And then the MPs even said no to that, because they said, sometimes I like to grab one of the ministers in the lobbies, which is the place where you get to vote yes or no. And I like to have that's where I get my special time, and I don't get it any other time. And the only thing they would agree to was that you could film one as a mock-up with not real people for educational purposes. But after all these hearings, the only thing they did agree to is because of the sort of vanity of those really high-angled shots that look weird, is that they said, okay, we can have a fixed camera position behind the speaker's chair and some on the table, on the sort of dispatch box, near the dispatch box. And that's why you get to see those things. Now, the reason that you maybe saw Jeremy Hunt in those kind of cutaways is because you can see him Starmer would have been talking. I haven't seen this particular moment of joy from the chamber, but Starmer would have been
I haven't
talking
seen any of this series at all.
I'm
so
still saving the
yeah,
box set for
yeah,
Armageddon when we're all in the catacombs. Then I'll watch PM Keys, but otherwise no. Yes, so you'll see Starmer, and if Hunt is passing him things behind, then that will inevitably be in the shot. But otherwise, it is incredibly tightly controlled, and they are so obdurate about changing it at all. And the only reason they changed that is because they felt it was like physically unflattering to them.
But some MPs as well will also know who's been picked to ask a question.
Yes.
And if you sit beside that person or behind that person, you will be seen.
Yeah, then you don't have to go in for 3 weeks.
On camera, yeah, because your constituents
yeah,
go,
you've
no, that's good.
You've clocked it, yeah. So, and also another reason they didn't want to have the lobbies, the divisions, the voting shown is because they thought people would watch and say, well, where's my MP?
Yeah,
they're not there. And so,
I mean,
but one of the things so when you see those wide shots of the chamber, which in many ways are the most sort of corrosive, and it's unfair because you see those wide shots and people are like, there's absolutely nobody there, and they're discussing something really important, like, I don't know, post office compensation or something like that, and it's really empty. And sometimes they show those wide shots, people are actually voting, but other times they are doing other things. But because they've refused to allow other types of coverage, people have this impression that they've kind of turned up for their salary and then they don't go in, they're never there, there's no one there at these important moments. So in a way, I do think that they should adapt. But they were so slow to get cameras, and they've always been very, very suspicious of them.
It's like those restaurants you go to where the kitchen is open and you can see the chefs.
Yeah.
You just think, I don't want to be watched, but listen.
But you always feel very when you can see the chef, you feel that's you feel positive about it, and you feel that
because normally you only see chefs behind the restaurant having a fag, don't you?
Yeah.
When you're kind of when you're walking
if you
by.
can see the kitchen, you're like, well, this is going to be pretty good. There's nothing to hide here. So I think that they should adapt to it, and I do think that the broadcasters were right in terms of you don't have to make it super dramatic, like panning shot and like extreme close-ups, but if you can make it more engaging, but I mean, having said that, there was years where people watched it with all the Brexit shenanigans. My children could do a John Bercow impression. I'll never forgive the Conservative government for that. That moment with not being able to go division,
Peter Bone,
but, Mr. Peter Bone. But you had, there were so many nights where I had to watch it because some other thing that I've completely forgotten what they all were now, indicative votes, meaningful votes. It was just a mess for 3 years, but you had to watch it. So it became quite obvious to people then. It's like, is this how they actually shoot it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's getting bigger ratings than a lot of shows currently. And so, I think they should adapt it.
Theme music?
No, nothing. They should have incidental music.
Credits?
Yeah.
Starring?
Yes, they could.
Dallas as the opening credits.
There's not a half... Yeah, with people just turning towards the camera. There's not a halfway house. I'm not suggesting a halfway house, but even a 16th way house, they could make it better and they could make it more engaging, and I think they should. Sorry, that's a really long answer, but as I could say, they really care about this and they protect their image rights beyond all Hollywood agents.
Well, they're worth a fortune, the image rights.
Yeah.
Grant Shapps' image rights. I mean, he makes millions.
You've got to be.
That's where he's making most of his money.
Yeah.
T-shirts.
Speaking of rods made for one's own back, Richard, you have been teasing us since last week with your top 3 cartoon mice. Please, can you share with me and the listeners your top 3 cartoon mice?
Well, only because I want people to ask us for our top 3s on things, so I think it's interesting. So this is proof of concept.
All right, fair enough.
Let's see if it works.
Yeah.
Top 3 cartoon mice. I tell you who's not in the top 3 cartoon mice. Mickey Mouse.
No.
How has Mickey Mouse been launched an entire empire?
A shit mouse.
I mean, if you were to say what's the best way over the years to make $400 billion, I tell you how.
A minimum.
This mouse, he doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
He literally just got a squeaky voice.
Tell me his character. He's got a character in one movie, Fantasia.
And he's got Minnie Mouse. You think Minnie Mouse at least has got a bow in her hair?
Yeah.
At least it's something. Anyway, so not Mickey.
Even though he's Jerry, who is a complete psychopath.
He is a psycho. I mean, genuinely, it's abuse.
Yeah,
a lot of the stuff that Jerry gets up to.
I like Tuffy, the white mouse in Tom and Jerry. The little white mouse is a sort of baby. He's rather sweet.
Yeah, sort of the Scrappy-Doo who came in, but a useful Scrappy-Doo.
Yeah.
So number 3, I'm going to say, because based on Jerry, but Itchy.
Yes.
Itchy and Scratchy, because at least he's supposed to be a psychopath.
Yeah.
It's like taking it to the nth degree. Number 2, Speedy Gonzales.
Yeah.
Because he used to say underlay all the time,
Yeah.
and I remember saying it. But number 1, there is only one, isn't there? The greatest cartoon mouse of all time, Danger Mouse.
Very good.
who was originally David Jason and then became Alexander Armstrong,
Yes.
the guy who was so recently let down by his phone a friend on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And I recently found out, I can't remember what show I was on, I found out what animal Penfold is from
Yes,
Danger
what
Mouse.
is he? He's like a little mole. What is he?
People think he's a mole. He's a hamster, Penfold. So if we were going to do top 3 cartoon hamsters, which is harder, don't send that in as a question.
No.
He'd probably be number 1.
Just that name any 3 is too hard.
But Danger Mouse. Danger
All
Mouse.
right, you can ask for your top 3s. I'll do a top 3.
Yes.
I'll do a top 3.
Here we go. But it'll have to be like, top 3 parliamentarian.
No. There's been enough politicians for this week, but yeah.
So send in your top 3s. We'd love to have more. So that's probably us done, isn't it?
That is. We will see you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.